Well, hi. I wanted to create this video on some of the most favorite products that I have. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is my wheatgrass juice powder. So in the morning, what I do is I take one heaping scoop of the raw wheatgrass juice powder. A couple things you need to know about this. I went to the farm where they grow this. The soils are amazing, very high quality. Not one chemical. And what they do is they take this wheatgrass that's been growing for a long time under cold temperatures. So there's actually frost. So they wait and what happens over about 3 or 4 or 5 months, the wheatgrass digs its roots deep into the soil. So it's pulling deep minerals up into the plant. So you're getting a lot of trace minerals into the plant in a plant-based form, simply because the location of where they have this organic farm used to be an ancient sea, okay? So there's a lot of minerals there. So you got that. And then they quickly cut it and transport it to the biggest juicer I've ever seen in my life, this massive juicer, and they juice it, and they take this green liquid. Okay, it's all chlorophyll and phytonutrients and nutrients. It's all alive. And within a minute, they take the water out using very minimal heats. They never exceed the temperature 106 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's like lukewarm. So that means that the enzymes are still alive. So we go from a liquid powder without the fiber, because they take the fiber out, and they go to a powder within a very short period of time without any heat. It's just amazing. So you preserve the enzymes and the nutrients, and even more than the nutrients, it's the phytonutrients that I'm interested in, the carotenoids. There's hundreds and hundreds of different phytonutrients in there. And I did an evaluation on this with 2 other brands, similar leading brands, and I wanted to compare the phytonutrient profiles. I put them up on my website. So this is a rock star for phytonutrients, and they give you extra additional health benefits. Okay, so I take 1 scoop of this, and then I put it with 1 scoop of either my electrolyte powder or my new electrolyte sport drink powder. Okay, now what's the difference between these two? Well, this has more sea salt, okay, Himalayan sea salt, and this has less. Okay, so if you exercise and you're sweating a lot, this would be what you want to do. If you don't sweat that much, then you can do this. But if you're on keto and you need more salt, then I would go with this. Tastes really good. Now, if you actually leave this open too much, it might get a little bit hard. So you want to keep this really, really tight, okay? So I'll take a scoop of this or a scoop of this. I kind of alternate with a scoop of this and some water, and I just mix it up with a big container of water. And I'll drink that in the morning, okay? Now, in these electrolyte powders, you have some unique things. You have super high levels of potassium. Okay, so there's 1,000 milligrams of potassium, which our body needs a lot of. We need about 4,700 milligrams every single day. So you have to consume like 5 to 10 cups of vegetable per day to get close to your potassium. Very few people do that. So I recommend enhancing it with this, but this is not just about potassium. It has the magnesium, it has other electrolytes with a bunch of trace minerals too, in a blend of trace minerals, tiny bit of organic stevia, and it's very fresh, it tastes good, the flavoring is great, and it's very hydrating, okay? So you have more energy. What you're gonna feel with this is more energy, more hydration, better endurance with exercise, okay? So that's what these are. Also, if you have any fluid retention, that'll be gone with that. Okay, this one right here, this is a really unique product. It's called the gallbladder formula. And for years, I had a gallbladder problem. And I had pain underneath my right rib cage, right into my right shoulder. I'm talking for years and years and years before I had any idea that it was related to my gallbladder. And I would get chiropractic adjustments, and I would get therapy, and it would never go away. I had a knot right here, okay? And so eventually I changed my diet, it got better, but I still had a full feeling underneath my right rib cage. Little did I know my liver was becoming damaged and inflamed and scar tissue. And what happens when you have scar tissue in your liver or inflammation or fat, sometimes the bile gets trapped in there and it creates more inflammation and more irritation, and that can create problems in your liver. Well, it just so happens that purified bile salts, that's what's in here with a lot of other things, can help open up the dam to allow the flow of bile to drain through the liver. So all that tension completely went away overnight when I started to take my own product. So a lot of people take this for bloating and digestion, but I take it for liver support because for years I ate unhealthy and my liver is damaged. So this really keeps my liver working, because one of the functions of bile, purified bile salts, that goes way above just absorbing fat-soluble vitamins and breaking down cholesterol, is the prevention of fibrosis and scar tissue in the liver. It actually is an anti-inflammatory. So it's good for a lot of things. 95% of all your bile gets reabsorbed at the last part of your small intestine, called the ileum. Now, why is that? Because your body wants to have the bile to travel all through the small intestine, okay, which is probably like 20 feet or more, to control and regulate bacterial overgrowth. Because if you have a condition called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, where you have bacteria in the small intestine where it should be in the large colon, that's a bad thing. And that means you don't have enough bile, because bile kind of controls excess growth of bacteria. It can actually help regulate it. So that's why your body reabsorbs it at the very end, so it has a chance to clean out and kill off any bacteria, good and bad, because we don't want bacteria there. Okay? So that's one really cool thing. Also, it helps you absorb omega-3 fatty acids, all the fat-soluble vitamins. It's very important in the detoxification of the liver and the excess amount of cholesterol that you have. And if there's drugs or poison or chemicals or even alcohol residue or extra hormones that are in your body, it just helps to detoxify that. Also, I have in here potassium hydrochloride for the stomach as an acidifier. I have things to help support the pancreatic enzymes. I have things to help thin the bile. So there's a lot of other things in here that help digestion. So normally people take like one after a meal. If you have liver issues or some of the things that I described, you can take one on an empty stomach in the morning, and one after the meal, and one a little bit later in the day on an empty stomach, because it really does help in many different ways. Okay, so I'll come back to this. We're going to talk about this. Another very important product, vitamin D and vitamin K2. So if you watch my videos, I have a ton of vitamin D videos because the importance of it is incredible. In fact, vitamin D is probably the most important vitamin, especially the fat-soluble vitamin, because most people are deficient. And what it can do to your immune system, what it can do as an anti-inflammatory. If you have low back pain and take vitamin D, bam. Also, it supports blood pressure as well. It's good for so many different things. Okay, and then I put the K2 in there, which keeps calcium in the bone and out of the soft tissues of the body. But not only that, I added purified bile salts in here. Why? Because vitamin D and vitamin K2 are completely dependent on bile for their absorption. If you don't have enough bile, you're not going to absorb vitamin D or K2. So I put it in there, and you should notice even a more enhanced effect from that. So one capsule is about 1,000. So one capsule is 10,000 IUs of vitamin D3 and 100 micrograms of vitamin K2. Okay, so you can take between 1, 2, or 3 depending on what you're trying to achieve. Okay, so that's this product, and I like this a lot. And I mean, not only are people very deficient in vitamin D, and especially K2, they're very deficient in bile salts. Why? Because the amount of liver damage, the amount of colon damage. If you have damage in your small intestine, you're not going to have enough bile. If you have inflammation in your small intestine, I mean, who doesn't? You're not going to make enough bile. If you don't have enough friendly bacteria in your colon, you're not going to have enough bacteria to recycle the bile. You're going to be deficient. Okay, and deficiency of bile will eventually cause the cholesterol to consolidate and cause stones. I can talk all day about bile, but that's all I'm going to talk about. Now, this one here, this is my trace minerals, enhanced. Okay, this is a group of plant-based trace minerals. So it's ancient trace minerals, so it's very easy for your body to absorb. I would say that most people are also deficient in trace minerals because they don't consume enough shellfish or fish from the ocean or seaweed, things like that. Because it's really hard to get like iodine, selenium, zinc, unless you're consuming things close to the sea where there's salt water. So this puts it back in, but I also recently spiked several key trace minerals like zinc and copper and selenium. I increased the elevation in some of these trace minerals a little bit more, simply because most people need more of that, especially zinc. Now, the thing about zinc is our bodies don't store zinc very well. They definitely store more iron, and too much iron can be toxic, but zinc is something, if you're not getting it from the diet, you're going to be deficient usually. So I recommend that you consume more shellfish and seafood or take it as a supplement. Now, especially if you're trying to support your immune system, this is it right here. Because if you take zinc in a blend of all the trace minerals, then you're not going to create any deficiencies. Because anytime you take one trace mineral or one mineral without the other ones, eventually you throw things out of balance, the copper ratios, and you get problems. So anyway, I want to just create this video on my favorite products and some unique things about each one. Thanks for watching.